So hello again, no? I hope you learned a lot in module 2, no? So by this time, no, I guess this is the most exciting part because this is the closest, no, the closest step of for you to really continue with software engineering. So you learn a lot on how to create on to analyze existing systems, no, and create areas for improvement, no, through analysis models. And with that we will use those analysis models to continue with software design. So software design is another broad topic, no, but we will be condensing it on only the relevant parts that are essential to software engineering in context to VSU. So the course outcome for this whole module, no, is for you to really capture technical information through modeling. So you may ask, sir, we already did analysis models. So is that not yet enough? So analysis model is different from software design, no? So, but they are somewhat intertwined together. You need analysis model to be able to generate a software design. So this would be another series of topics that we need to learn. So at the end of this series of module 3 lectures, so our goal, no, is for you to be able to explain concepts related to software design and for you to independently construct software models for small software projects. So we are explicit on that small software projects. So basically, we'll cover overview, the important concepts, now that will ready us that to continue with this succeeding module 3 topics. So uh, let's ask ourselves first, what's design? So when we design, no, it is an intentional and creative process. So it means that we have the urge to do something. It is intentional, and we use our creative juices, no, we extract our knowledge, we use tools, we ask help from people, we use resources, no, to be able to generate something. So that is design. So it can also be defined as the conception or the idealization, no, the thorough planning and the production of, it can be objects, structures, or processes to achieve specific objectives. Since design is a broad topic, no, ever we will be focusing on the type of design, no, that is applicable to software. So that's why we need to define this design as a synergy of function, of user experience with a bit of aesthetics. No, that is the uh, UI side. So it should be a synergy, a balance of these three things, no, in context to the needs of our end users. So when we talk about software design, so it is an iterative process. So it's not a one-time design process. So you create your initial design, you review it, you refine it further, no? That is through collaboration and communication with your stakeholders. So in a way that you translate the requirements, your analysis models into a ripe blueprint for software construction. So, of course, it doesn't mean that your blueprint should be perfect, no? But it should be right. It should have gone through the series of iterative refinements, no? Improvements through collaborative process. So in software design, so you define the architecture, the components, the interfaces, and other characteristics, no? Through the creation of diagrams, models, and other representation. So again, in analysis model, you model, no? However, those models are focused on the conception or the conversion of the requirements into a meaningful representation that will be communicated to your clients and will be used by the technical people, specifically the designers, so that they can create the final blueprint that is ready for software development. So let's go through these very important concepts. So first, we'll start with data structure. So maybe you're very familiar with this since you are programmers. No, you started with computer organization. You are in touch with the RAM, no, and how to code the uh, the assembly language, no. So you create you manage data from that limited resource, no. Then you go into C, C++, and to other programming languages as well. So basically, you are familiar with data structure, no? So this is the representation of the logical relationship among individual elements of data. So, so we can say, in layman's term, that data structure is somewhat a higher form, a higher data type, no, of the basic, the primitive ng mga data types. So it dictates the organization, how data can be grouped together, how can it be accessed, so its associativity, and how we process the data. No? Diba? In C and C++, it's very strict. So just one wrong operation, no, that your program will terminate. So we have these two types of data structure, the scalar or the atomic domain. No? A very simple data type. No? It can be an integer, uh, uh, float, a boolean, a string, and so on. And we have this more complex type of data type, the vectors. No, can be accessed through variable indexing. However, we already have an abstraction, right? Abstraction in modern programming languages. So unlike when doing it in assembly or C++ with high-level programming language, it's easier to create, let's say, lists, dictionaries, hash maps, no, and other data structures, mga linked list, and so on. We have libraries and existing data types for that already. Then now that we have a refresher of data types, let's go through stepwise refinement. So basically, when we hear stepwise refinements, you can just uh, relate it to somehow to decomposition, no? Basically, you can create sub-procedures for these bigger procedures. So it is a process of breaking a high-level design into more specific and detailed components. So it is also called the process of elaboration because it reveals the low-level details. No? So basically, when we perform this one, it can vary at different levels of uh, complexity ba. So it can be breaking down a bigger problem into modules or maybe breaking down a procedure into separate ng mga functions. So it depends. And that is under the umbrella of stepwise refinement. So next, we proceed with information hiding. So it is better known as encapsulation, no? Especially if you are into OOP nga concepts. But for a more generic term, no? Especially for languages that are not OOP, so we use information hiding. So this concept is independent, no, sa programming languages because programming languages may implement this differently. For example, in Java, it's very strict with the private, public, no. However, in Python, we have this data mangling and other workarounds. It is a bit different, no? So basically, in information hiding, you add constraints that will restrict access to specific data. You specify what specific methods, what specific data are accessible to the outside another variable or another code, for example. Now, then we go into this very important part of our concepts, the modularization. So uh, this one is very important. No, this principle is very important because uh, since we are developing software, we are developing systems, we want the bigger components, that we will be developing as independent as possible. No, we want them to be independent but can be assembled or connected together. So it helps the maintainability of the system, no? Because if you change something internally in a module, no, it has somewhat a lesser impact on the whole system as a whole, assuming you don't change its interfaces or the API, no? So modularization simplifies, no, the modification, the replacement, and the maintenance of the system. So that is the core point of modularization. So we have different criteria for effective modularization. No? So first is decomposability. So again, we do this so that the whole project itself is manageable. So that is the core part of the composition, no nga, breaking a bigger problem into manageable chunks, no? So kana siya, that's one criterion, si decomposability. We have understandability also. So we need to ensure that as we break our system into subsystems or problems into manageable chunks, we need to document it. We need to make sure that each chunks are understandable. We need to follow naming conventions, that are easy to comprehend. Now, for example, we have this order nga module, we have this inventory module. So make sure you name your modules in a way that it is relatable, it is understandable, it is familiar. So that's important. So next is composability. So we cannot decompose up to a infinitely ba? We cannot decompose infinitely. Now, there must be a way nga when we decompose a certain project, a certain system, so there must be a maximum, no? Na in a way nga those broken down modules can be easily uh, uh, be assembled together. So, for example, a puzzle piece, diba? It's easier, although we want challenge ba, but it is easier to assemble a puzzle piece if the image for each puzzle piece is clear, and also if the puzzle piece is not too small. So it is very important that we also apply that in our software engineering practice, no nga. We decompose it at only a certain level, make sure the composition is understandable, no, and that the modules are easy to be assembled or to be connected. Then continuity, so it enforces consistency and stability over iteration, no, so meaning, no, you make sure that your module has this durable API. I mean, this API that is consistent ba? So an interface that does not change in every iteration. For example, a simple nga example, a function, an add function nga, a summation function nga. On the first nga version, ang summation nga function, it asks for different arguments nga, summation A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. No? Then your next solution is to accept not individual parameters but a single parameters, which it is a list of numbers, diba? So the interfaces for your module should be well defined, it should be understandable, and in a way does not change too often, because if it changes too often, it impacts other modules as well. Okay, other modules will adjust to the changes that is introduced to your interfaces. So the interfaces should be consistent. The only thing that might be need to be changed is the implementation on the lower level. No, maybe optimize the computation, the logic, and so on. But the interfaces should be consistent through various versions. Then protection. So it hides inner workings, no, and exposes necessary interfaces only. So same as information hiding, but on a higher level, on a modular level. So you can access certain interfaces only. You can access certain data only through a specific, maybe an API or a certain methods, or depending on your solution. So it safeguards from unintended interactions and failures. So very important topics also. So we need to understand cohesion. So since we already have these uh, topics about module, a module can be just a folder, it can be a function, or it can be a class or whatever, it depends on the size of the project. Now, we also have this measure of internal structure. So it asks, how close, how closely related are the functions inside a specific module. So as much as possible, we want high cohesion or functional cohesion. So that means, from this slide, that from this graphic in our cohesion spectrum, the modules are related. They perform a single and well-defined task, meaning one function is helpful to another function. One function is related to another function itself. So, for example, if you're developing a module for image recognition, so of course you only add functions that is focused on maybe image processing, image recognition, and so on. Do not add procedure for, let's say generic na mga utils, for example, for parsing JSON, or whatever unrelated ng mga functions that are not useful to that specific module. So again, we want higher cohesion for each of our modules. So now we proceed onto the relationship between two specific modules at a time. No? So the degree of dependence between two modules. And our goal here is baliktad. We want a looser coupling, between two different modules. Kaya di ba our goal for modularization is to have sets of independent modules that can be easily connected or assembled. So high coupling means that the module is highly dependent on another module. It means if one module breaks, if one at least one bug is introduced to that one module, it impacts that that another module that is dependent on it. So we want to make sure that our module is independent enough no nga. It can still work even if one module is a bit problematic. No? That's why we want to ensure nga our interfaces remains the same, no? So that any breakage for that module will not easily impact other modules, no? So that is cohesion versus coupling. We want high cohesion, but we want looser coupling. So let's proceed with abstraction. So I hope you are already familiar with this one. No? So it is just the process of hiding complex details, no, whatever system that is presented, no, and we add, no, we provide a simpler layer of interaction. So basically, it can be implemented differently, no, depending on the system. So we have an example here, the OSI reference models, no, for specific frameworks. And on each specific level, no, it is interacting on different types of data. No? So we can start on topmost part, no, the blue layers, no. So basically, if we have an application, it interacts with higher level data. Now, basically, it starts with human readable or human understandable data. No? It can be pictures, text, videos, and other forms of visual or data that can be heard or data that can be felt. No? And this specific data uses these specific protocols. So DNS, HTTPS, SSH, SMTP, POP IMAP for email, FTP for file transfer. And as we go deeper, each data might be encoded, no? That or maybe broken down or uh, repurposed, no, or maybe transformed in a way that it can be transported or it can be moved into the different layers of uh, these different levels of abstraction. So, for example, the application data, it will be encoded, no? For example, if you're let's say you are posting an image on a social media, no, so that image, no, that visual image represented as monitor is actually just bits, no, bits naman na siya. So i-encode siya, is it JPEG, no, is it PNG, and so on. then then we also have session management, no, nga. For example, if you are using a Windows nga PC, you can only access the system if you are logged into that specific account. Then we have these transport protocols, no? If you want to transfer data from one computer to another, so we use TCP/IP. Then we have these interfaces, no, for that are closer to hardware already. So we have these the data link and physical layers. So basically, the physical layer is the closest to the nga physical nga cables or maybe sa satellites, right? They have this hardware and software abstraction layers. That's why the data link and physical layers are almost have the same kuan ba. For example, the Ethernet standard, no, for the software side and the Ethernet standard for the physical side on the manufacturing of these cables and other uh, connectivity ng mga devices, networking devices. So we have these different levels of abstraction, no? We have this control abstraction. So if we are focusing on high level design, no, it can be, since we are on control abstraction, it can be control structures, the loops and the declarative nga approaches, no, and how we define loops. So siya mga control mechanisms. Then we have the process abstraction, focus on the external behavior, no, without concerning the intricate details sa pag-implement. So this can be function, methods, or maybe modules itself. Then we have the data abstraction, the simplification of data structures by essentially displaying only the accessible ng mga parts or details. So most prominently used by object-oriented design. So that are the three layers of abstraction: control, process, and data. Then we have higher forms of abstraction. No, it is great now that we already have this BIOS and UEFI, the OS and firmware, because we no longer interact with the computer directly through the hardware. Diba? OS just manage everything for us. It displays what we need, no, in a more visual manner. Unlike if we tinker with the management of the memory or whatever, no, or interacting directly with the CPU. So that is abstracted by OS and firmware already. Then we have programming languages. So again, instead of interacting directly with the hardware, we can just write codes, no? And the programming language interpreter or compiler itself, no, or the runtime, whatever is need to run the program, it will be the one who will be managing the 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 memory, no, for example, and other stuff on how to interact with the low level APIs. Then we have this certain protocol middlewares and APIs that we use to communicate, that are used for communication, no, so it can be from hardware or to another network or interfaces between two different hardwares and so on. So now we also have frameworks and libraries. So we still use languages, but we already have this composability, being able to reuse existing methods, existing plugins, no? So that we can code faster. Then we have these development kits if we want to develop new applications, no, for that specific hardware. We have virtual machines. So basically, these are emulations of specific na mga operating system that can run on real PC. So on top of a real na PC ba. So maybe you can run Linux on Windows or Windows on Linux and so on. So few more things, no, before we end this slide. So we also need to understand control hierarchy. Well, we have decomposition. We can break down the whole system into subsystems, into different independent components, no, the modules itself. So control hierarchy represents the organization of these components, and we have various notation. It can be textual, it can be hierarchical, no? It can be graphical, it can be in a program in a manner, a tree-like structure, and so on. So we have these different notations, no, or diagram. So you can create a Hippo charts, Dipo charts, Tipo charts. So it's very simple tree-like structure. We have the Jackson diagram and the Warnier-Orr diagram. So Warnier-Orr is a bit more traditional. So basically, if you go into a sign subject, So you create more HIPPO charts, DIPO charts, and it's associated with mga HIPPO charts. So it's input, process, output charts. So kana siya. Then we have this structural partitioning. Both are important, no? But essentially, these are the murag kuha na siya 2D perspective. So this is the process of dividing a system into well-defined modules, no, based on its functionality, responsibility, and cohesion. So it's more on the graphical view, no. So you link which components are related to each other, the program structures that are related to each other. So we have the horizontal partitioning. So it separates the major functions as branches. So if we have one software, no, one application, one system, we break it down into features or modules. And for the vertical partitioning, we break down those modules into different na mga subcomponents. So as an example for this one, no, you can see that we have our main system and we have our modules A, B, and C. And for each modules, no, it can have multiple subcomponents underneath. And underneath Pajud at the deeper level, we have these specific components that can be reused by multiple other higher level ng mga component. So this is just the visual representation. No? The benefit of structural partitioning is it makes our software easier to test, maintain, and extend because we can see the clear boundaries of different modules, different components. No, and it is more traceable. For example, there is an issue with these certain components. It is more easier to track which components, which modules are affected, which are not. No, so that's very important. No, to apply both horizontal and vertical partitioning. So this is not just a logical representation. This is the visual representation on how you really implement your system. You break your system into meaningful nga mga modules, no? So that it can be easier to really trace, no, kung asa ang mga errors. So I guess this is the last part of the slides, no, the our lecture, no. So before we continue with our separate nga mga lectures as a continuation for module 3, so we need to define design model. So the design model is actually the representation of our software itself, and it is used to facilitate both the iterative refinements of our design process, no, and also the end product of this design model, no, will be the one that will be used for software development, for software construction. So basically, the input for the design model is the analysis model. So that's why we need to ready ourselves, no, to be able to create and understand, no, data dictionaries, data flow diagram, and entity relationship diagrams to be able to create this design model. So in our next na topics, we will be learning about concepts and creating design models. No, starting from data design, we proceed with architectural design. We'll jump a bit to component level design, and we'll have a special topic on interface design. So it's like a review plus additional information that will help you really create a robust documentation that is ripe for software construction. So that is the important, the importance of why we are doing this stuff. no? It's a step-by-step process. If you can remember, no, nga going from understandings requirements, you did requirements gathering, you created analysis models, and now we are already on creating a design model. So in summary, software design translates requirements into software blueprints, so necessary for software development. The design concepts are principles and guidelines that promote a more structured and organized approaches into a clear and maintainable software design. No? So it guides us. It ensures that we are taking the right path, no? So that the software design that we are creating is ripe, no? And it is the right representation of what our customer or client needs. And this design model, the pyramid, no, which has its own components, represent the software itself. So when you are done creating your design model, no, of course there is no really final uh, final nga or a strict rule, no, I'm saying you're already done designing. All of the phases that we are in are iterative. However, there must be an authoritative figure that will say that this is the final version as of the moment, as of the time that we will be using, no? So that we will proceed with the next step. So the design model represents your software, and it will be used for an iterative refinement, no? Though managed siya, and for communicating ideas back to the analyst. So in software design, we assume the designer role already. No, it can be UI UX designer, no, technical writer, whatever. But we assume the role of those designers to be able to communicate back to the analyst, no, the systems analyst. So we can say, are we doing this right? Is this representation actually represents the requirement itself? No? So, and also, no, this will be the North Star, the guide, no, the specs, the the truth, no, the golden truth, the the main Bible, no, for software development. So, and also, kaning design models will be the basis for software testing also. So that's why nga, it's very important to create the most appropriate representation of a software based on the analysis models. So I hope you learned a lot today and you continue with the evaluation of this slide. So I hope you learned a lot and thank you so much for listening on this video.